Hello and welcome to my review of the Genestealer Cults Patriarch. This is my 8th edition review of the model. I did say that I would go through and review every single Genestealer Cult model that I own in 8th edition on the back of all of the releases. This was about 7 months ago, so yeah, apologies it's a bit late, but I did say I'd do it and I want to get through them all, much like all of the Orc releases that came out a while ago too. So this Patriarch right here, I do actually own 3 Patriarchs. I'll show the other 2 in a moment. But the way you can get this model, it was previously in one of the older box sets that had the Genestealer Cults in with another force. I can't remember which one it was, so you're going to have to just remind me, apologies. But you can still get this model along with a Primus and a Magus and a couple of Familiars for £37.50, which I think is pretty decent because this is quite a medium to large model, got a big scenic base, and the other 2 miniatures would typically set you back £15 to £20 each as well. Let's just say they were 15 each, that's £30. You're technically getting 2 Familiars and this Patriarch for £7.50. That's the way I'd look at it. So these Patriarchs are very similar to the Brood Lords that you'd find in the Tyrannid Codex, except that they are stronger and they can manifest psychic powers. They also come with Familiars too. The monstrous rending claws are exactly the same, so they are better, and their Familiars help them help them to manifest the psychic powers. They also have this Brood Telepathy, which is what Brood Lords have. They have the lightning reflexes, but they have Living Idol, which helps obviously the Genestealer Cults pass morale tests. So very similar to Brood Lords in the Tyrannid force. I've got 2 Brood Lords here. They've all got the monstrous claws. If anything, I'd probably say the Brood Lords are a little bit bigger. Their spine bones on the back look different. They're sort of smoothed off, a bit like you know, your normal Tyrannids. Whereas the this Patriarch, they're all spikes. So careful with the transportation with this one. They've all got those long tongues as well. Although this one has a little mouth on the end of it, and it's got its 2 fingers on its brain, which is partially exposed, but the tail is also longer, I want to say, because it goes all the way underneath it, and it is on this kind of like sewer pipe type thing with a load of skulls obviously below it. So similar to the Brood Lords for Tyrannids. We're going to have a close-up of the model, we'll do some size comparisons, and then we'll go through all of the rules, the 8th edition rules. So lovely looking model. I'll try and get the lighting right for you. Pointing with this outstretched claw. You've got a Space Marine head there as well, look, and a little Genestealer Cult symbol. Yeah, got some ricochet rounds and bullet holes. It's holding a Space Marine head with some wiring coming out. At first I thought it was like a spinal cord or something, but it's not. It's just holding a Space Marine head with one of the hands and the other hand on the brain. Wicked face and pose. Looks really cool. Really like it. You've got this little turning thing, this valve thing. I like the sinew poking out from the carapace armour as well. That looks pretty good, and the sinew of the, you know, in between the exoskeleton, I want to call it. So yeah, really decent model, really intimidating. Yeah, not as huge as a Brood Lord in terms of like its arm span, you know, with its arm span like that. And with its, you know, that's really focused, and that one is, yeah, definitely manifesting a psychic power. But yeah, awesome looking model. So some size comparisons. Obviously I showed you them with the Brood Lords next to a little Genestealer. As you can see, yep, that's what it could potentially turn into. So yeah, very small, next to a Locus. I think it's a Locus, you know, with a little tail poking out. This is one of the newer models, hooded as well. It's the Jackal Alphas. I like to compare them with other Genestealer Cult models, obviously because you have it in the army. And then the Abominant, which is another HQ choice, and a Magus as well. So the largest HQ choice you can have, essentially, for Genestealer Cults is this, and it'll definitely go toe to toe with any other HQ choices in any other army. Very potent. Speaking of which, let's go through the rules for this Patriarch. So, as I said before, shares the same stat line, except for the strength. I think it's just a bit stronger somehow than the Brood Lord, but there we go. So its movement speed is 8 inches, its weapon skill is 2+, ballistic skill 5+, strength 6, toughness 5, 6 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 10, and a save of 4+. Hold the phone. I think I've got a couple of familiars as well to help it out. There we go. I think you get these two with the set anyway. The familiar's stat line reads movement of 6 inches, weapon skill 3+, no ballistic skill, strength 4, toughness 3, 1 wound, 2 attacks, leadership 8, and a save of 6+. A Patriarch is a single model armed with monstrous rending claws. It may be accompanied by up to 2 familiars for a power rating of +1. Its power cost is a 7, and its points cost is 125, and then familiars are 12 points per model. So that would be 149 points for all these three, which I think is pretty good actually for an HQ choice. So the weapon, Monstrous Rending Claws. It's a melee weapon, strength of the user, which is 6, not 5, so that's excellent. AP -3, brilliant. Damage D3, very good. And you can re-roll failed wound rolls for this weapon. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for the weapon, that hit is resolved with an AP of -6 and damage of 3. That's colossal. So you want to get those 6s on those 6 attacks, you know, on the wounds. Crazy. Abilities, Cult Ambush. I've talked about that in other Genestealer reviews. Brood Telepathy. You add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by Cult Genestealer units in the fight phase, whilst they are within 6 inches of any friendly Cult Patriarch models. Living Idol. Cult and Brood Brothers units automatically pass morale tests whilst they are within 6 inches of any friendly Cult Patriarch models. And Lightning Reflexes. A Patriarch has a 5+ invulnerable save. Swift and Deadly. This unit can charge even if it advanced during this turn. Yeah, kind of taking a page out of Jane Zard's book there. Familiars. If a Patriarch is accompanied by any familiars, then once per game at the end of its controlling player's psychic phase, its familiars can lend it additional power. If they do so, the Patriarch can immediately attempt to manifest 1 additional psychic power. When rolling to wound this unit, always use the Patriarch's toughness while it is on the battlefield. The death of a familiar is ignored for the purposes of morale tests. Familiars are considered to have the character keyword for the purposes of shooting attacks. Psyker. A Patriarch can attempt to manifest 1 psychic power in each friendly psychic phase, and attempt to deny 1 psychic power in each enemy psychic phase. It knows the Smite power and 2 psychic powers from the Brood Mind Discipline. Tyranids. So the keywords are Tyranids, Genestealer Cults, Infantry character, Genestealer, Psyker, Patriarch, Infantry, and Familiar. Now, I wouldn't be much of a reviewer if I didn't go through the psychic powers, which are on page 113 in the Codex. So the Brood Mind Discipline, obviously, again, you've got, you can choose them, or you've got D6 result of 1 to 6. So on a 1, you get Mass Hypnosis. So a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select an enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, the target cannot fire Overwatch. Fights last in the fight phase, even it charged, and must subtract 1 from its hit rolls. 2. Mind Control. Has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select an enemy model within 12 inches of the Psyker and roll 3d6. If the score is less than that model's leadership characteristic, nothing happens, but if it equals or exceeds it, that model can immediately shoot another enemy unit of your choice, or make a single close combat attack against it, as if it was part of your army. Models cannot attack themselves, but they can attack other members of their unit. Pretty good. Ionic Blast. It's a warp charge value of 5. If manifested, select an enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to the Psyker and roll 2d6. If the result is less than the highest leadership characteristic in that unit, then it suffers 1 mortal wound. Otherwise, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. That's very good. Mental Onslaught. It's a warp charge value of 6, and if manifested, you select an enemy model within 18 inches of and visible to the Psyker. Each player then rolls a d6 and adds their model's leadership characteristic to their result. If your score is higher, the enemy model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If the selected model is still alive, you then repeat this process, each player rolling a d6 and adding their respective leadership, until either the selected model is destroyed or you fail to inflict one mortal wound by having a score higher than your opponent's. That's awesome, actually, very, very good. Psychic Stimulus number 5, it's a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select a friendly Genestealer Cults unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, the unit can charge even if it advanced, though not if it fell back, and they always fight first in the fight phase if they didn't charge. If your opponent has units that have charged or that have a similar ability, then alternate choosing units to fight with, starting with the player whose turn it is taking place. So that's very similar to the War Shout of Jane Czar. And that can really turn the tide of a battle. You know, the fact that you can charge even if it's advanced and you always fight first in that fight phase, incredible. You know, especially if you're using that with like Metamorphs or Genestealers themselves. Number 6, Might from Beyond. It has a warp charge value of 7, and if manifested, select a friendly Genestealer Cults infantry or biker unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristics of all models in that unit until the start of your next psychic phase. So strength and number of attacks for infantry and biker units. Very, very decent. Number 6, that's one of the ones you should really go for. So that is all of the psychic powers, and that's all the keywords, and that's the whole data sheet, stat line of the Patriarch. I think it's a fantastic model. You know, the Broodlords are lovely as well, but this sort of Psyker focused HQ is really what, you know, it's the embodiment of Genestealer Cults in my opinion. You want a big gribbly creature that's 100 odd points or so to be leading your Genestealer Cult army, because it's incredible in combat. It's got all those psychic powers, and it can buff your units with those psychic powers as well. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you and read all your comments. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. For the Norn Queen.